this talk, Strength in Numbers, Growing Your Network at College and Beyond. Very nice title. So you want to go to the next slide here? Okay, so yeah, I already went through this just to show you some more of my background. I do have a few advisory roles as well, and I'm a angel investor for TBD Angels. So the advisory roles span, anything from an e-commerce startup based out of Kentucky to a space satellite startup based out of New Hampshire, of all places. So I'm all over the map. I like to stay busy, and I have a lot of different interest areas. We go to the next slide.
Networking.
Okay. If you take away nothing from this talk, it is this. Well, and I'll ask you this. I'm assuming most people get nervous around networking, and I think it's because we put way too much pressure on ourselves. Even the word networking, right? Like when I think of network, I never use the word, because if you go to the next slide, like when I think of networking, I think of this guy. I think of like Danny. I mean, I'm sure no one has seen this movie in the audience. I'm going to date myself a bit, but this is Danny DeVito in the movie Matilda, where he was this, kind of sleazy used car salesman guy. And whenever I heard the word networking when I was coming up in my career, I would get nervous because there was all of this connotation behind it. So the first thing I would tell everybody here is don't even call it networking. Like when you're going to an event and someone says, why are you here? I almost never say I'm here to network. What I say instead, if you want to throw up the next slide there, I say I'm looking to meet friends and mentors. And it immediately takes the pressure off yourself, and it takes the pressure off the other person. When we've all been there, you meet someone, you're like, what are you doing here? I'm here to network. You kind of like start slowly backing away, right? So from a framing perspective, this is what I use. I'm always trying to meet friends and mentors. Okay. So next slide. That's kind of like the meta theme here. And to show this, we're going to try this out here, Akimi. So I wanted to back to like, what is successful networking and what does it look like? I wanted to show a brief video here from another movie. As you can tell, I love movie references. So we can try to click this here. It's like 1 minute and 20 seconds.
It doesn't work like that, Connor. Sorry, my friend.
Okay. Well, move on then. It's totally fine. It was a scene from a movie where it's called Forgetting Sarah Marshall, where the main character is trying to learn how to surf, and the surf instructor keeps saying, "Do less, do less, do less," and that really holds true when it comes to meeting friends and mentors within a business reality. Like you don't have to try that hard. Just be yourself, be curious, ask questions, and then you'll look back a few months later and you'll have met all these incredible people who want to help you and want to support you. If you're going in with an agenda and you're like, I'm here to network and I'm here to meet this person, it's not that it can't work, it just hasn't worked for me. So you want to go to the next slide there. And as I said to Akimi's first question, I started taking meeting friends and mentors really seriously when I first got into the startup space. So let's call it like 10 years ago now. And it is unbelievable the opportunities that have come out of me just trying to meet cool people. And so I want to run through some of these with everybody so that you can see what success looks like. So next slide, please. Okay, so this was a mansion in Scotland, and this is like, by the way, pre the panoramic capability on the iPhone. So this is actually like a fourth of the house. I just actually couldn't take more of the house. It was so large. I got invited to this event in Scotland when I was about 27 through a contact of a client that I had met and built a strong relationship with. And they actually flew me out here to this event where it was a black tie gala at this Scottish mansion in the middle. I literally don't even know where it was, somewhere in Scotland. So that was like my first huge success, I would say, when it came to meeting cool people. I'm going to go to the next one. Okay, so this one is really timely. So, and actually, I think Akimi knows some of these folks here. So through my network, I ended up meeting a gentleman based in Boston who had some contacts in his home country of Cambodia. And next thing I knew, I was on a plane to Cambodia with this gentleman working on a proposal for a smart city project outside of the city of Siem Reap. I'm not sure if anyone knows what that is, but Siem Reap is where Angkor Wat is located. And it's one of the oldest structures in the entire world, comparable to the pyramids. All through just talking to people and trying to be helpful. Like I'm sitting there, talking about building an entire new city and using the latest technologies and ESG capabilities to show the world and give the world a high caliber place to stay when they visited Angkor Wat and Siem Reap. And that's some of the gentlemen involved in the project there. And then that's me actually at a piece of the ruins of Siem Reap, or Angkor Wat rather. So next slide, please.
This is a good reminder for me to call Wes. Thanks.
Yeah, I was just with him a few weeks ago. So this is same project, but just to my mind couldn't even comprehend where I was sitting at this point in time. But again, all of it could be drawn back to the gentleman on the far left. Him and I became close friends, and yeah, we talked business, but we also talked family and what he liked to do for fun, and through that, he felt very comfortable and brought me in as the lead on this relationship. And next thing you know, I'm sitting in this gentleman's, if you want to call it a house, there in his palace in Cambodia, talking about a smart city project. Want to have the next slide, please? So this was about a year ago. This was a startup out of Israel, really interesting company. It's called Verstill, and they have a hyperdistillation technology that can make, let's call it a 10-year whiskey in like 2 days. So instead of having something sit in a barrel for 10 years or 18 years or 3 years, you can have it in a barrel for 2 days, 5 days, 10 days. It'll literally taste the same. Again, met them through the startup scene in Boston. Helped them for free, actually, for a number of years. Got some shares as an advisor, and then ultimately they flew me out to Tel Aviv for 14 days last year, where I ultimately didn't end up taking the role, but we were talking about having me come aboard to really help grow the business and manage the U.S. business for Verstill. So this is a photo I took while I was in Tel Aviv on behalf of Verstill. Next slide, please.
Yep. So what we're saying, Connor, is that the folks in the room now can potentially join us in Tel Aviv next year.
I'm trying to get them. Let's put it this way. It was on a startup dime. I was like, this flight is like, oh my gosh.
Okay.
And then, I mean, listen, I think everybody understands that networking is important, but I did want to point it out and break it down a little bit from a founder perspective than from a student perspective. I would even say you should break this down from a venture capital perspective, because most of the reason that, and everybody says this, but like most of the reason one venture fund is quote unquote a better fit than another is their network. But I didn't put the slide on here. So reasons why networking is important for founders. Obviously, meeting customers, and that's different from sales. Shadow Factory, we've had pilots now with Puma, with Sports Illustrated, with Standard & Poor's, Global Market Intelligence, with Hong Kong Airport. None of these people were sales prospects. These were all people that either I knew or someone on our team knew, where I could text them or message them and say, hey, we got this cool thing. Do you want to check it out? Boom. Okay. That's all networking. So meeting customers, hiring talent. I am always trying to, like, how do I say this? Play the long game. Like if I meet someone who's capable and gritty and intelligent and wants to, and is interested in startups, I always try to stay in touch with that person, because maybe I don't have a role for them now, But man, is it amazing when you're sitting there and you're saying, I really need, we just, let's say you just raised your pre-seed, you're a founder, you've got 300K in the door, and instead of going on LinkedIn or spending money on a recruiter, you're like, what about that woman that I met in Vegas last summer? She said she'd like to do this. She might be a good fit. Let's reach out to her. Right? As a founder, you don't have time to be and you don't have the money to be spending on things like that. And bluntly, you're going to get way better candidates through your own network, anyways. And then third, obviously, finding investors. Most VCs, at least in my experience, if you send them a cold email, hey, here's our deck. I don't know what the data would show, but it's extremely low that they're going to respond to you. Okay. Almost every dollar that I've raised has either come through a direct connection that I've built over time or someone that I know that knows someone at the fund. And they say, hey, Mrs. or Mr. So-and-so at Venture Fund A, Connor's got this cool idea. I've known him for years. Do you want to talk with him? It's like an 80% hit ratio if it comes in through a direct connection. Right.
And I can also attest to Connor's points here. Every job that I've had recently has been through the power of networking with my peers. I've never applied for a job through LinkedIn or Indeed.com or anything like that. It's always been word of mouth as to, hey, what's opening up, talking to someone about what, new company they hear about that's growing. When you look at their website, you see something, you find an internal reference. So as he's saying right now, the long game is what you want to do.
It's funny you mentioned that. I interviewed for Softtech Venture Fund, whenever that was, like a year ago. And I remember right before getting on the call for the interview, I was like, I don't even know if I know how to interview anymore. Like, I literally haven't interviewed for a job in like 7 years. So ultimately I got the offer, but I was a little bit nervous. That's how much networking I had done. I just kept getting offered roles. So, all right, go to the next slide.
Well, and at the end of this, we'll teach you how to answer that interview question. What's your greatest weakness? That one is always a fun one.
Oh, yes.
Okay, on to the next one.
Okay, students, again, these are obvious, but you want to learn. You are in data collection mode. Learn as much as possible. Some people are lucky enough to know exactly what they want to do and what space they want to play in and what roles they want, but I certainly didn't. So you're already on the right track joining events like this, but that should be really the main goal when you're talking about networking, learning, job hunting, obviously, and having fun. I really want to hammer home that the more authentic you're being and the more fun you're having, the more people you're going to meet. Okay. Like when you're going to an event and you're just walking around, asking people how they are, what their name is, you're always going to meet more people than if you're going in with some very specific agenda. Cause it's just not how humans interact. So those would be the three themes. If I was a student sitting here watching this, that I'd want to take away from meeting cool people. Excellent. Next slide. Okay. As I said, a lot of theory out there when it comes to networking. So I wanted to get very specific. I got permission from everyone to use their photos as a disclaimer. So I wanted to run through some of these for you. So I've got 2 of my own. And then I actually have a recent college graduate that I highlighted, and then a current student at BU that I just think are doing fantastic jobs when it comes to networking. So this is a case study on Mr. Mark Reich. So Mark is the founder and president of Ironwood Capital. It's around a $400 million Fund 8, Fund 8, let me say that again, private equity firm out of Connecticut. And fun fact here, like literally a month ago, Mark and I went to a Red Sox game and I actually caught a fly ball. Although it bounced first, so I will say. I can't say I caught it directly out of the air. But anyways, I broke it down into networking nodes, how we connected, and then the outcome. So he was from my hometown in Connecticut, and I had played high school lacrosse with his son. And my parents used to see him around town. I remember growing up, people would say what he did, and I didn't even know what that meant. So I was like, okay, cool, seems like a nice guy. When I was trying to break into venture capital private equity about 6 years ago, I wasn't sure the route. And I literally just emailed him. I got his email off the website. I sent him an email. I said something like, "You probably don't remember me, but I played high school lacrosse with your son. I'm trying to learn about this, this, and this. I saw that you've been extremely successful in those topic areas. Would you be interested in grabbing coffee with me next time I'm in Avon, Connecticut?" Got right back to me and said, "Absolutely." And so fast forward, 6 years now. I attended his 70th birthday party virtually a month ago. We went to a Red Sox game. He's become a close friend and mentor of mine. He actually wrote me my letter of recommendation that helped me get the role at Boston University as a professor. And we now look at startups together to invest in, and are also even talking about potentially starting a Connecticut-based venture capital fund together. So you want to go next slide here?
That was a good email.
Yeah, yes, it was. Is there another? Am I missing a slide here? Hold on. Previous slide.
I have this one for the same flow for this fella, and this one.
Okay, I forgot to put that one on. That's fine. Yeah, just go back to a Mr. Towns there. Yeah, I had a workflow for Mark, but I can just walk through it. So with Mark, it was oh, here it is. Yeah, so I sent him and this was like kind of the process of building the relationship. I sent him a kind of cold email, although he knew who I was theoretically, like he had seen me playing lacrosse. I asked him if he'd be willing to meet next time I was in Connecticut. I came very prepared with specific questions, an elevator pitch on myself, what I wanted to accomplish from the meeting. And I made it all about learning from him. And then I followed up with other questions and comments, let's call it every 2 to 3 months. I wasn't super scientific on that, but it was more of leveraging him when I had a really hard problem, because he'd seen every problem that I was gonna encounter, and I would literally just ask. It wasn't like I wasn't saying, "Hey, checking in." I was saying, "Hey, Mark, we're trying to build out this strategy for this startup. What would you do if you were me?" And then he would give me this whole plan that was like way better than what I could have come up with, and then I would just use his plan, and it would usually work, right? And I was always thankful of his time, and I was always sure to tell him the success that he was allowing me to achieve. Meaning, like, "Hey, Mark, just wanted to tell you that after you had direct me to do X, Y, and Z, we ended up winning the contract, or we ended up getting the investment, or we ended up. So I actually would tell him how his mentorship like directly allowed me to achieve victory across various aspects of business. Next slide. All right. Fred Towns. All right, another fun fact. So Fred Towns and I have, he actually joined me at one of our demo days because he moved down to Austin, Texas. He was in Boston. He's a BU alumni. He was famously the founder of Playster that ended up raising 100 million in Boston. This was about probably 6 or 7 years ago now. Incredibly intelligent, warm, amazing guy. And so I met him he was an advisor at a startup I was working at. It was called Launch Source. I was the director of growth there. And one of the first things I did was book meetings with all the advisor teams, because they were, outside of the CEO, the most impressive people on the team. So I wanted to learn from them, see what I should do, what I should not do, as I had just come into a role. It was my first director position, so I was quite nervous actually for that role. This one was a little bit easy as far as like how we connected, because he would come by the office, let's call it once a month anyways. So I just emailed him and I said, "Hey, next time you come by the office, can I Can I buy you coffee? Can we meet? Can I ask you some questions? And similar, he became, excuse me, a close mentor and friend, and he ended up being a reference for me that ultimately helped me be accepted at Columbia University for my master's degree. And we talk all the time. Similar with Mark, we look at startups together. We have some advisory clients together, and he's been an amazing friend. And we've been to Vegas together for a conference. We've been to Texas together. He was living in Montreal for a while. I stayed with him in Montreal. I mean, it's been a really fun time with him. Next slide. Yeah, this is the workflow. So as you can see, similar. I made it very specific. My role was sales and marketing. So my questions were around sales and marketing and account management. And then I would follow up with comments and problems. You know, I'd say maybe 1 or 2 months is probably a little bit short. It's probably more 3-4 months for him. And then same thing. I was always thankful for his time. I'd be sure to buy the coffee, small gestures to make sure that they understand that you're appreciative of their time. I do think I don't want to generalize, but I would say I have seen more often than in other generations, the recent college graduates and current students sometimes don't come off as appreciative. Maybe they are appreciative, but they don't come off as appreciative. And when you're talking with someone like a Fred or a Mark Reich, like these are gentlemen that if they wanted to could have a call every second of every day. And like they're choosing to give you their time. Usually they'll give you a shot if you reach out, but to continue the relationship, if they don't feel appreciated or that you're really listening to them, or you're coming prepared, you probably won't get another meeting. Next slide, please. All right. So I hope Alfonso is watching this. I can't see who's on the thing, but Alfonso Meraz, unbelievable young man. And I met him through teaching at Boston University. I was going to try to show his LinkedIn because he's doing a bunch of activities that I was trying to show. But so now kind of doing the inverse. I'm showing what I've done to be successful. And now now I want to show what some kind of up and coming leaders are doing and how it makes me feel and how I help them and what I think they're doing correctly. Okay. So I met him at an event at Questrom Business School at BU. He was, again, asking a lot of questions. Like it was like 90% him asking me questions. And actually like halfway through, I was like, wait, is this kid doing the same thing to me that I was doing to Mark? He's asking me so many questions. I feel so cool, right? He made me feel smart because he's asking me all these questions. So then he asked me for my LinkedIn. He gave me he took my cell phone. Again, this one was a little bit easier because I used to just like see him around campus, but he started consistently reaching out to me and trying to pick my brain on various topics. He's very plugged in and involved with the BU community. As you can see, he's part of BU Spark, which is like a social enterprise, like venture lab, kind of community growth organization. And he's working at, I actually told him, I'm like, man, you got to slow down. You're doing like 400 things right now. It's crazy. He was an intern at AWS. He's thinking about going back and getting his master's. He's got the engineering degree thing going on. And then ultimately, about a month ago, he had asked me to become a faculty advisor for an AI project that he's working on. So they're actually going to be pitching BU to see if they can win like grant money to work on this AI project. And I happily said yes, because I feel like I'm like, how do I say? I feel like I'm totally enrolled in his journey. Like I want to do whatever he needs because he's done such a good job of like making me feel cool and special. And so I want to help him. All right. So next slide. I keep forgetting I already did these on the other side here. Same thing. Authentic, likable, hardworking. I want to help him. That's the takeaway, right? Oh, actually, go back really quick. This is one. Yep, there we go. So, and then last point on Alfonso, although Colt has the same mentality, but Alfonso is how do I say? I don't want to say persistent because that sounds like it's like a negative connotation, but he's persistent, meaning, and I was the same way. Like he would text me once, and sometimes I'm on a flight or whatever, something's going on, and I just don't respond. I mean, I sometimes don't respond to people that are like in my family for a few days if I'm traveling or something, right? So he would always lightly follow up, which is great because it's not like I didn't respond because I don't want to talk to him. I didn't respond because like I either didn't see it or I had something going on and I forgot about it. So don't be deterred if someone doesn't respond to you. Now,
What does that friendly bump look like?
say again.
What does that follow up look like?
It varies. It varies. It's usually, hey, did you see my? I'm sure you're really busy. Did you see my text that I sent you last week? Or he'll do, various mediums. It might be like he sent me an email, and if I don't respond to the email, then he'll send me a text because now he's at that place. But if you just have an email or a LinkedIn, I would say just keep it within that medium and just be like, hey, I know you're really busy. Just to reiterate, I met you at the event. You had said you might be interested in grabbing coffee. I'm really looking to just kind of reiterate what you had asked for because sometimes it didn't happen in these cases, but like people might have just forgotten a little bit because they meet so many people, and then they'll be like, "Oh yeah, I remember that. I remember him." Right? Then they'll respond.
One way I've been able to do this, especially over email, oftentimes people will send you an email and you want to respond to it, but you forget. And a few days later, you see someone circling it up your inbox. And the words are literally circling this up your inbox. It's a very short, concise way to get whatever you were looking for, the message you were getting back up there. So, are you a fan of that one, Connor?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
exactly.
one sentence. It's really awesome.
Exactly.
Okay. You want to go to the next slide, or are you still here?
Yeah. So Colt is I think he's been out of school now for 2 years, and so I met him. I mean, Colt should be doing this talk. I tell you, he's like a master. He's unbelievable. So I met him through a friend of mine who was investing in some consumer packaged goods startups, and Colt was doing an internship there while he was finalizing his job at EY, and he actually did something really interesting. If you go to the next slide, he put I had never seen this before. I thought it was pretty smart. He actually put a standing. Well, we had our initial kind of like, hey, I'd like to learn from you and like let's get to know each other call with him, and it went really well. But then what he did is he said, hey, I know you're really busy. Do you mind if I put 30 minutes on your calendar, the last Friday of every month? And I was like, yeah, actually, that's amazing. So then and then he's like, if you can't make it, we'll move it. But it was actually on my calendar. So, I mean, I actually, it's funny. I was supposed to talk to them today because it was on my calendar and I saw it and I was like, Colt, I can't talk to you today because I'm talking about networking, but I'm going to be, highlighting you during the presentation. So I hope you don't mind. But yeah, he has a standing call on my calendar and it changes. Like sometimes I'm like, hey, can't make it. Can you push it till next Tuesday? And he goes, yep, sounds good. So that I thought was a really interesting thing to do because it always keeps him top of mind.
That's a persistent fellow. Okay. We're going to the next slide.
Next slide. Okay, this is again like more like meta. Be a learn it all, not a know it all. I have found that, and again, certainly not trying to generalize. This is a data that I've collected over the years, and I don't think this is a younger person thing. I think it's just like generally a thing. When you're meeting a new person, especially if this is someone you want to be a mentor. Like it's one thing if it's a colleague, okay, maybe it's okay to be more open about what you know and you're an expert in this particular field or whatever. But when you're trying to meet a mentor, like you should always at least give the perception that you're trying to learn from them, even if you don't love their idea. There's nothing that someone who, is super busy, they get on a call with you or they get on a coffee and someone's running through their ideas with you and you make a suggestion and they're like, oh yeah, yep, know that. I already know that. Oh yeah, I did that. Oh yeah, I did that. And I'm kind of like, then why am I here, man? Like, if you already know everything, then maybe I should work for you. Or you could just not say that and at least pretend you like their ideas, right? If you're trying to build a relationship with them. It sounds simple, but you'd be surprised at how often it happens. So another theme of this talk is like, be a learn it all, not a know it all. I still do this today. I mean, you never know it all. And this is like not even a networking thing. This is just, if you want to be a founder, you better know that you don't know anything if you want to win. So not least for networking. Next slide. Okay, how are we doing on time here? Oh, perfect. Look at that. So who wants to be my guinea pig? Because I want to show you a exercise that I still do today when I'm trying to build lists of people to get in contact with. But this is a great way to start your networking journey. And so what you do is, if someone wants to, I don't know, Akimi, how you want to do it. Maybe if someone wants to raise their hand or pull it up on their laptop or something, I don't know.
Anybody who wants to volunteer in the room can raise their hand and you'll be nice. We're going to be LinkedIn connections right afterwards too. Okay. We're going to open it all up. Okay. Yeah, we have one volunteer for us. What's your name, sir? Hassam? Harsem. Okay.
Harsem.
All right. Connor, what would you like Harsem to do?
All right, Harsem, do you have a laptop with you or no? It's okay if not. Okay.
No laptop.
Well, this is probably not. I thought I was going to be able to change the pull up my. I thought I was going to be sharing my screen. Sorry. So what you want to do here is, everyone can do this then. So if you look at this networking node section here, you want to look at who you know, and you want to break it down by the networking node. And I hope you can see here what I was doing. But like, networking nodes for me were, I'm from Connecticut. I played lacrosse. I did my undergraduate at Assumption College. I worked at Standard & Poor's. I went to Columbia. I teach at BU. Okay, so that's like the mechanism in which you automatically have a connection with someone, right? So like, let's take BU for example, or what do you go to university currently? Sorry, what did he say?
I graduated a while back.
He graduated where?
Yeah, graduated a while back.
Okay, where'd you graduate from?
University of South Carolina.
University of South Carolina. Amazing. My uncle did his law degree there. Okay, so like, if I'm you, that is a networking node. So I'm gonna say, even do like a LinkedIn search. I'm gonna be like, let's say you want to break into clean tech startups in Boston. I mean, you could even make it that specific. I would put South Carolina here, and I'd see how many people in Boston that work at clean tech companies or have a clean tech role go to South Carolina or went to South Carolina. Then I would shoot them a LinkedIn.
You're looking on LinkedIn right now?
Say again?
Are you looking on LinkedIn or Google right now?
Am I?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
No, I was just saying like this is what the gentleman should be doing. So like, you want to build a list like this. So you'd say South Carolina, right, would be where BU is, and you'd build a list. It could be 10 people that you want to connect with, their names, titles, their LinkedIn account. What do you want to speak to them about? Right? Maybe you want to break into a data science role and the person is a data scientist, right? That would change what you're going to say to them. If it's a data scientist and you want to be a data scientist, you would say, hey, Sarah, I saw you went to University of South Carolina. I went there as well. I saw that you're a data scientist at Google. I'm really interested in that role. looks like we're both in Boston. Would you be open to grabbing a coffee or getting on a call so I can learn more about your journey to becoming a data scientist? Right? Example one. And then it's like, you're from a certain part of the world. You can do the same thing for that. And then sometimes you can do just straight up cold outreach. Sometimes there can be no real network connection, but you can do the same thing. I still do that. So I'll say, hey, we don't know each other. I saw you did X, Y, and Z. I'm really interested in learning about X, Y, and Z. Would you be open to meeting or grabbing coffee or getting on a call? Or, I saw you were speaking at this event or at this article. I really liked what you said about this, this, and this. Like, make it personal. I would say it's like a balance. I wouldn't say quality over quantity. It's like quality and quantity is how you want to be thinking about this. So, I still do things like this probably 20 times a month, reaching out to people that I don't know or people I haven't spoken with in a while. I mean, like I said, I moved to Maine, 3 hours ago, right? and I was already this morning going through my LinkedIn, being like, who do I know who lives up in Maine? Ended up being a gentleman I worked at with Standard and Poor's. Grab coffee. I like doing it. He's a smart guy. I don't really have an agenda other than I don't know anybody up here and I'm lonely other than my girlfriend. And I'm joking, of course. And so we're going to grab coffee probably next week. Right. And I'll just do that. And I'll see who else I know up here in Portland. And again, it starts getting easier. Like I'm part of, through TBD Angels and then through the Web3 community of Boston, I'm part of the Boston DAO. And like networking is so much, I said to not use the word, meeting friends and mentors is so much easier these days than ever before. Like I've got a Slack channel and a Telegram app Telegram. I just threw it in this morning. Hey, just moved to Portland, Maine. Anybody in Boston DAO based out of Portland? Got 4 people. Hey, yeah, I just moved to Portland. Let's hang out. Like, that's how simple it is. It took me years to get to that point, but like it is kind of like the tipping point, the Malcolm Gladwell thing, where it's kind of like it's hard, and then it just becomes way easier over time. So you just got to hit that inflection point. And I think that is all. We got about 15 minutes of questions. How'd I do?
Doing great on timing, buddy. Okay. So you're up in Portland, Maine. Me and my new connections here will all get on a bus, on a Greyhound. You're going to pay for it. We'll all be up in Portland soon. Okay.
They got a train now, actually. They've got a really nice train, the train to Maine from North Station.
The Bullet?
I don't know what it is.
Maine, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
The marketer there didn't miss that one. Okay. I like that. Okay. So I'm going to come around with the microphone if we have any questions for Connor here. Anywhere I can start first? Okay. Good afternoon, miss. And what is your name? Yeah. I'm going to give you the microphone and speak into this.
Thank you so much for being here today. I just had a question. You mentioned earlier that you meet with people and sometimes you just have no agenda. Can you just speak a little bit more to that when there is like you don't have necessarily any goal in mind? Where do you want the conversation to go? Like what is the good way to approach it?
That's an amazing question. What did you say your name was?
Yana.
Great question, Yana. So I should have been a little more specific. You have to have different strategies depending on the situation, right? So when I'm saying no agenda, when you go to like an event, like the event you're at right now, you should be going around and just have, how you like, I would try to make it as not business related as possible to start and be generally interested in that person, regardless of, sometimes what I've noticed happens is you're trying to meet, someone to hire you, let's say, okay? And you'll meet me at the coffee section here. And the moment that, I'm not saying you do this, but like, just bear with me here. And the moment that you find out that I'm not hiring, you just kind of like walk away. That's how it typically works, right? It's like they're kind of, you can tell that they've moved on. They're not really interested in you anymore. And I'm saying, don't do that. That's what I mean by not having an agenda. Like, if you've already sparked the conversation, go that extra 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes to learn something about them. It doesn't have to be about you then. But if you're going in with, I want to get hired, and the person can't help you in that moment of time, doesn't necessarily mean they can't do something for you later. If you think they're worthwhile staying in touch with. I'm not saying to stay in touch with everybody, but like, we're talking, you think, theoretically you think my ideas are interesting, and we're talking about interesting things, but it's all about the questions you ask to really get to know somebody, right? So instead of, maybe I'm not hiring now, so you're kind of like, okay, yep, cool, have a good day, and people just walk away, right? Get to know me more, see if there's another way I can help. I go through this all the time. I mean, I don't, because I'm not full time at the venture fund. I am a partner though at a $40 million venture fund, and I don't lead with it typically when I'm meeting people, and so people will, still to this day come up to me and they talk, and they're not asking me enough questions. So I'm not going to just say, oh, I'm a venture capitalist, right? And then because I don't tell them, and they're trying to raise money, for example, they kind of like move on with the conversation. They walk away. Meanwhile, I am exactly the person they're trying to meet with. But their agenda was so strict, they didn't even get me to a place where I felt comfortable telling them that I'm the exact thing they're trying to meet. Right? So that's what I mean. Does that help? Or is that like even more confusing?
Yeah, no, that definitely helps. And if it's okay, I'd like to add a little bit to it too, Connor.
Yep.
When you're expanding your network oftentimes comes into play in business and sales roles, right? So when it's time to try and make a sale for the product that you're a part of, that you're passionate about, hopefully, it's not, those people aren't just going to pop out of the ether. Having a previously built out network allows you to reach out to them and people who they know, so that you can continue to make your sales pipeline a more how do you say this, with more velocity, right? And then also, I've found that at networking events, when I have like a hard sale on my mind, I'm not being cool, right? You want to be calm, you want to be humanistic, someone that they want to work with as well. So when he's saying that, don't have an agenda, don't have a hard sale agenda, and when the time comes that you do need something, that person is part of your network that you can make a no longer a cold outreach to, but a warm outreach to. And then also, what was the last point I wanted to make with this? Something about agendas. I don't know. It'll come back to me, but that was an excellent question.
And then I would just say, when you do if you book a meeting and you're like when I went through Mark and Fred, that was the opposite. I had a very specific agenda when I showed up to that meeting. But that's very different than if you're meeting someone in real time for the first time, if that makes sense. That would be the differentiation of when you want an agenda, when you don't.
Right. And then let's not forget that people jump from company to company. So if you meet someone who is a recruiting manager at one company, they weren't hiring specifically for your skill set at the time, they may be working at another company in about a year down the road, and you meet them there. This has happened. I've seen people do this, where they no-showed the interviewer, and if they go to another company, they're never going to take that time for that next company to interview back if you no-showed them one time. So people talk. It's a small world. So when you don't have an agenda, you're polite, you're just someone who can help out. That's going to help you build your network.
And then I'm sure that there might be other questions, but you just reminded me of something that came from like a theme perspective. Give before you get. That's what I would say. Like, there's a very smart mentor of mine always says there's talkers and there's doers. Like, if you meet somebody and you say, oh, I'm going to make a connection for you, or let's do this, or let's do that, actually do it. You'd be surprised at how many people don't actually do anything. And if it's like both parties are waiting for the other party to do something first, and I really don't know why, but it's like, hey, you had mentioned you were looking for this kind of startup to work at. it's as easy as sending a link. Oh, we connected at Startup Boston. You said you wanted to be in clean tech. I was looking at builtinboston.com, and this clean tech company's hiring. Like, did you check this out? Just like send it to them. Like, it's as simple as that. Be helpful.
Pretty simple, right? Yet not everyone does it. So
Yep.
good practice to build. Okay. Do we have any other questions in our audience? Yeah. Okay. And what's your name, miss?
Thank you. Hi, Connor. So I want to give you a little bit of context to my question. I am a working professional who works in product in Boston in a startup company. Um, my question is, I work remotely, and so that reduces the avenues for me to network with other people. And I really like the idea of not calling it networking, but meeting new friends and mentors. And that's something that really struck with me. And I like to go forward with that idea. What I want to understand is, considering I have this limitation of, again, I consider it as a limitation, is that I work remotely. And so I have fewer avenues of meeting people. This event is a great way to connect with other people, but what are the other different avenues where I can, meet new friends or mentors? That'd be helpful to me.
So great question, and I apologize. There's some noise here in the lobby here. So I would. Sorry, everybody. So I would say that before COVID, that was a problem. The COVID reality has kind of changed the way we do business, and I get more me. I mean, I'm fully remote, by the way. Like, that's why I was able to move to Portland, Maine, because everything I do. I mean, the company I work for is out of Hong Kong. The fund I work with is out of Houston, right? And so I'm in Portland, and I don't feel as though nowadays it's very difficult if you use technology to your advantage. So like, there's all sorts of Slack channels out there now, Telegram channels. Um, for example, like, I'm part of, it's called Ivy League Entrepreneurs, and so it's like, if you have an Ivy League address, right? It's literally just a Slack channel. I get more done, perusing that channel for an hour every month than I used to in like a year living in Boston, going to events. So, and not to backtrack on what I just said, but from an agenda perspective, like, when it's on Slack, you can pull up their LinkedIn. You can see you can actually, it's at your fingertips to know if you even want to reach out to this person and waste your time, right? So people will post on Slack, I'm looking for this, I'm looking for a job, or I have this kind of startup. If anyone wants to be involved, you click their name. Oh, they went to the same college as me. I check out their LinkedIn. Wow, this looks like an impressive person. Then you send them a message. Hey, I saw your Slack message. So I would say technology is your friend for sure these days. And you got to go to more amazing Boston startup events.
Exactly. You got to hit the channels that he's speaking about right now, and then you find your way into more niche and dedicated, focused for whatever it is that you're looking for. Slack channels, for instance. But if you're in the Boston area, I mean, you're at, I always say, to be warm, you got to stand around the fire. Startup Boston really is the fire of the entrepreneurial scene in the ecosystem out here. And it's not just us. If you go and look at the underscore VC community, you'll get a ton of resources and you'll make a ton of connections there. Go look at Venture Cafe. Go look at Cambridge Innovation Center. They're always trying to host events for everyone in the startup ecosystem and the innovation ecosystem on the whole. So Boston is littered with these things. It's a good thing. That's why we're here. Continue to leverage those. Absolutely. So anybody else have any questions in the audience? Venture Cafe, which takes place, it's a weekly event every single Thursday. And Cambridge Innovation Center is where they host it at. It's in Kendall Square and also in Boston and also, yeah. They also separately host things as well. Yeah. _VC. They do an excellent job with their newsletter and keeping people up to date, and then also building community. Absolutely. And there's a myriad of other things out there too. And on the Startup Boston webpage, you can see a resource guide for every different sector that there is around Boston as well. Okay. Connor, I think we everyone has new connections. Everyone has new friends, as we're calling them, right?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Practice to do would be here at the end of this is to let's all connect together, right? So we can, if we have any follow-up questions in the future, if we can ever help each other out with an introduction, I think that's the entire point. So Connor, how can we reach you?
So is my LinkedIn? I think I added it to my profile, but I can throw it into the chat here. So just
For
connect
that
with me.
chat, absolutely. And for the in-person folks, I will make sure that they know how to find you as well.
Yeah, and I just threw it into the chat.
Yeah. Everybody who's online right now, throw your LinkedIn into the chat. Okay, that way we can all connect and we all know exactly where it was from. It's a good little it's a good node, as you said. We all came from the same side.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, this was fun. Sorry for the noise, and thanks for being flexible with my fairly hectic life this week. It was just had to move in on this day. So
all good, my man. It was good to see you this way.
Yeah, you as well. I'll be down in Boston in a few weeks, so I'll hit you up.
Sounds lovely. Okay, everybody. Right. Thank you for attending this session. Let's give it up for Connor Mack.
All right,
thanks. Appreciate it there, Connor. Exactly. All
right,
thank you for coming here today. So, Startup Boston Week. We have our closing party at 4:00 in the hall, and then also after this session right here, we are hosting one more, and it's about exploring all our different visa options as an entrepreneur here in Boston. So, if that interests you, stay right here.